The Valve situation is crazy, dude. I've been saying this, actually. This is a thing that people have been saying, but I've been saying this specifically for quite a while. That may or may not be true, dude. This is a freaking video by Coffeezilla, dude. Freaking reputable source for scams, spams, and thank you, bams. It's about freaking Valve and I think like CSGO or something. Called Deception, Lies, and the Valve themselves. Dude, this was kind of overshadowed by the holiday honey debacle that I covered yesterday. Freaking top comment on this video also is Penguin Z in a few hours. The Valve situation is crazy. This guy's right. I'm here to do that. I'm here to see the situation because I like gaming. And dude, I don't want to be deceived or scammed or spammed or talked to sternly for doing something wrong.
I got bribed to make a video exposing a single Counter-Strike casino, but I decided to expose the whole industry instead, which led us from pitchforks to people rushing.
See, I don't know if I would do all that if that happened to me, but things would have went differently if that did happen to me. I'm just saying that I can assure you.
Millionaires making excuses and esports teams who say they can't survive without gambling. The lack of any accountability.
I mean, I can't.
About the biggest casino of them all, Valve, the owner of Counter-Strike.
But that's because of my addiction, my dedication, and my provocation to. I'm just about to hit it big. I just need a few more spins at the slots.
Now, if you've watched the last few episodes, you know there's a lot of opinions about what the problem is. Who's the villain? Who's the good guy? Hardly anyone agrees on anything.
Gabe Newell.
I did find one thing. That
the owner of Valve and Steam, which are the same.
Really, everyone agrees.
The gamer man.
I started gambling on Counter-Strike when I was probably 13 years old.
Whoa.
13 years old. I think it was 14.
Valve definitely does have an underage gambling problem.
I think Valve does have an underage gambling problem.
Yes, it is underage gambling disguised because it holds real life value.
Underage, middle age, overage, however you want to slice it.
When I was young, that's the most easily influential age to get people in, because I can't go to a real casino and gamble.
Like what I did.
Yeah, but you could play like a mobile game or a freaking PC game, dude. Nobody is safe from the horrors of gambling, apparently. Even those freaking sports betting apps, dude. There's so many people promoting that shit. Like Post Malone was on my parents' TV nonstop when I was visiting over the holidays, promoting that shit. Which, I mean, get your bag, king. But I could not imagine gambling, especially on a sport. A fantasy sport at that? You're telling me it's not even a real one?
Back then was I went to our local video game store, bought like $20 worth of Steam credits.
Just buy real things, at least, if you're gonna waste your money.
Skins with those $20 credits, no verification at all.
Right, this is the most consistent answer I've received in a story where no one agrees on anything. Underage gambling is rampant on Counter-Strike. Not only that, Valve has known this was a problem for at least 8 years. And for those 8 years, Valve has done things here and there, but they've never seriously tackled offshore gambling issues, with some speculating the reasons why.
I think they have all the responsibility. I mean, you could pass me some of that if you want, but ultimately they're the kingpin, reaping in all of the money, or majority of the money, and there's a reason why they haven't killed it yet. They've possessed the power for all these years, but they allow it to go, and I feel like they do the bare minimum crackdown to allow it to keep operating.
That's right. Now, the person you just heard has ulterior motives for putting the blame on someone else. Either way, today I want to investigate Valve's role in Counter-Strike gambling, how we got here, what Valve can do about it, and how they've been fighting the change that is so desperately needed. So let's start from 2013, when loot boxes were first introduced to the game in an update Valve called the Arms Deal. It was first described as
Yeah, this is when the game went downhill, dude. We need to bring back CS Source. This was the good game.
What you gonna do about it?
I want to touch your body.
See? No! The community was thriving.
I just like that idea.
I got blown up with a grenade.
Dude, none of us sound like ourselves.
Lack of grenades.
It's probably just the game.
Brad spray, but if you turn it off, it shows you. All I can see is.
I think you're glitching out, but I'm just gonna leave my light on because I want everyone to know where I am.
And there's a doorknob like right by your face.
Oh god.
It looks like eating it.
Yeah, dude, and not a phone in sight during all of this, so it's a beautiful time to be alive.
There I go. I moved it over here. Hey everybody, look at my spray paint.
And definitely no loot boxes.
all the illicit thrills of black market weapons trafficking.
I don't fully understand what he's trying to go after, and like specifically, because obviously it's all kind of shady, but Counter-Strike has its own like built-in gambling, which I'm assuming he's mostly fine with or not so much. But then there's like the third-party sites that you can like resell whatever you win in the game, I think, which is what he's talking about when he means like crackdown, because yeah, they're not like run by Valve, so they could be more sketchy.
Which is kind of true. They did create a black market of skin betting. The only thing that I find false here is the quote, without any of the danger. Because if you look at the wrong casino, this guy might show up at your house. Either way, the arms deal update was the start of Counter-Strike gambling as we know it. With the introduction specifically of loot boxes. We're going to open one here so you can experience what that's like.
Oh, I've done it, Daddy.
Pay $2.50.
And I've lost.
And a wheel spins where items of...
The bullshit part is they give you the loot box for free for playing the game, but then you have to pay for the key to open the box, which is like $1.50 or something. Just enough to where you have to have 2 of them and then some change left over and get a lifelong addiction.
Varying rarity pass by. Knives and gloves are particularly valuable because they're particularly rare.
It's kind of fun, though, to spin the wheel and feel nothing.
Now, you might notice
if you can handle it, I mean.
Especially the near misses resembles a slot machine. I believe that's not an accident. This is the same company that hired experimental psychologists to design parts of their games.
So my name is Mike Amender. I'm an experimental psychologist at Valve, applying knowledge and methodologies from psychology to game design. So thinking about how knowledge...
You know, I've been saying the two should meet for a long time. Not a lot of gamers are all up here, and we gotta tap into their psyche so we can control it and make the game more epic. And I'm just trying to make it sound almost okay.
Is that we can take what we know about psychology,
an uphill battle.
As humans might react or respond. And apply it to game design.
I'm reacting right now with my psycho ability.
Particular responses.
Right. Valve is a game studio that uses psychology to manipulate user behavior. And it's
you nasty for
in
that.
some areas when optimizing for fun or excitement. But when we
try releasing a game in the next fucking 2 decades, maybe that would get me excited, you goddamn psycho.
Valve optimizes. What behaviors are they trying to cause when they make their loot boxes look like a slot? And the answer, I believe, is they want you to just spend more money. And making a slot simulator has been incredibly effective for that. In total, some estimates are that...
Yeah, but have you played the freaking CSGO simulator, dude? Case Clicker is what it was called. But there's a lot of them.
Kind of Counter-Strike. So I've not personally opened any cases in CSGO before. It's just not really my thing. But I have seen my fair share of case unboxings on the good old YouTubes. And I have to say, a lot of the people who just get super into opening cases, I mean, they probably have a gambling problem outside of video games. But hopefully we can get me to that level.
Bro, he knew.
So this is like someone...
He clocked it. I am addicted. All right.
All right,
this one's just pretend though, so it's kind of safe.
Let's freaking get another one, I guess. That's usually how this goes. I'm rolling. Oh, lady, luck be a lady tonight. I just prefer that gender for my luck. Please, please, could you give me that blue? I got a gray. I feel like that's a bad. It's okay.
Gambling sucks.
Just a fluke. It's probably just a flute. I hate that instrument. I'm gonna persevere and get a better colored gun. Oh no, I'm not. I'm definitely gonna get the grayest of the gray.
It's so hard to win. It's impossible. And therefore, have fun.
1.9 billion cases have been sold. At $2.50 per case, that's $4.9 billion for Valve. All spent on video game cosmetics. You can then trade these on the Steam
Which you gotta admit look pretty cool.
Which all gets Valve even more money because they take a cut. Last year alone, Counter-Strike made about $1 billion opening cases.
The skins update was a big...
Is that Walter White?
Giving you something you can buy, something that you can customize your guns.
It's done where it doesn't necessarily impact gameplay, but it gives people this exciting element to keep coming back and keep playing to get more skins.
So you might be surprised to learn that although Valve designed a machine that looks like gambling, Valve actually insists that it's not. This is because of a loophole where technically Valve doesn't let you cash out your skins. You can sell them for money for your Steam wallet, but you can't...
I mean, if they really believed that, they would just shut down all of the third-party websites then, right? Which they don't, because... I don't know.
For cash. So the skins are technically worth nothing in the real world. They're just worth something in Steam's marketplace, meaning their slot machine of skins isn't gambling at all, or that's what they would say. The expected value is actually 0. And all that sounds great, except for the fact that obviously you can go to these third-party sites and get real money, real crypto. You can also go sell them on trading websites. Which
Wait, real money? Wait, hold on. And then you said something else that didn't sound like real money. Go on.
Part of this economy where you can go sell your skins for cash. You never have to interface with the slot machine side of it. So this idea that skins aren't worth money is just It's just not true. It's just that Valve isn't directly allowing cash outs, which is a loophole that allows people of all ages to open loot boxes, trade skins for money, all without showing ID. It's worth saying this loophole isn't new. It's the same thing pachinko parlors use in Japan because there, gambling is illegal. But pachinko parlors are gambling, but technically not, because
like
when you gamble,
Peggle?
instead of winning cash,
Oh, it is like Peggle. What the hell?
Once again, you can't cash out.
That looks more fun than a slot machine, even though it's basically similar. Okay, I get it. This one has balls.
Third-party vendor.
換金所が別にあるから。それはなんで別にあるんですか？まあそこでお金のやり取りしたら犯罪なんで、犯罪ってかギャンブルになっちゃうんで、景品をもらうって体で景品をもらって。
They just give you gifts. It's not gambling. Yeah, that's basically what Gabe Newell does when he gives me that little box for playing the game and then begs me for $1 to open it. It's just a little gift that requires a cash gift receipt. I agree. He is a real piece of work.
So this right here.
No.
It's the maxed out version. I think it's like 650.
Damn.
Steam funds.
Those things look
how
awesome.
Do you get Steam funds? You can put money on. You can sell stuff on the store. You can unbox a case, get a $1,000 knife, sell it, and then get this. So items don't have value. How do I buy this?
Yeah, he makes a good point. I think it's pointless to argue too long against these loopholes, though, because there's millions of arguments, some used by Valve, other used by Counter-Strike casinos, for why gambling isn't gambling. You have Clash's sweepstakes loophole, hype drops, you never lose money loophole, you have CSGO roll saying you can only cash out skins. Everyone in this story, from casinos to Valve, is using legal loopholes. So instead of trying to legal eagle all of them, I'm just appealing to your common sense. If it looks like gambling, mimics gambling, and the players say it's gambling, it's gambling. Now that we understand this, let's take a look at one of Valve's strangest positions they've ever had to take. See, back in 2016, when gambling sites hit mainstream news for scamming a bunch of their users and underage gambling, Valve looked really bad and said they were going to put a stop to Steam users who run a gambling business. To do this, they sent out several cease and desist letters, and some of those sites ceased, but others didn't. 8 years later, some of the same casino sites are still operating. Meanwhile, influencers are clearly still getting paid millions of dollars. Esports teams are still sponsored by many of these gambling businesses that Valve supposedly wants to shut down. This is where we come to a question. Why does Valve say they want to shut down gambling, but they fail to actually do it? Some will say they can't. Like, these offshore casinos are literally impossible to stop, but I don't buy that. This is the same company who will happily destroy parents in court who sue them for pushing gambling. Where's Valve's legal appetite to go after these offshore casinos? I don't know. It seems to me they could have banned this all a long time ago using any number of IP arguments, legal attacks, or simply software patches. Why they haven't is where we have to get into speculation. I have two thoughts as to why.
Yeah, because I can't really come up with one. Maybe I'm just a simpleton boy.
Personally, I believe it's good for Valve to be in an eternal fight against gambling. It's good optics. If you never defeat the evil offshore casinos, no one has to wonder why your loot boxes look so much like slot machines. We got to defeat the evil offshore casino guys first, guys. In fact, this is the exact attitude they had in 2016.
It feels like Valve itself has specifically designed this game to operate almost exactly like a slot machine.
Even back then.
So they literally do it to confuse me? Like I said I was confused? You're telling me it's working? They're mental games? They're mind games. Gabe, get out of my head.
Got a lot of heat for exactly the
I
same
want to
thing
gamble.
now, but everyone felt that the casinos were doing worse things. So before we demanded change from Valve, everyone felt that we should address the casino problem first. And Valve was happy to play the hero and send those cease and desist letters out. So if you can always pass the buck to someone more shady than you and say you're working on it, it's easy to avoid problems at home. That's my first guess. But there's a second.
I believe you, Mr. Zilla.
Answer. Shutting down offshore gambling is just not a priority because it's not very profitable. It may even cost Valve money, even though they probably would deny this and say they don't have the data. You see, Valve may profit from these casinos indirectly. That is according to the journalist at People Makes Games. They made this argument better than I ever could, and I'm going to use a portion of their great documentary here.
We've got Steam over here and the betting sites over here on different websites, and both industries claim no relationship with the other. But to start with, the culture of skin betting is for many people a feature of Valve's games as advertised by YouTubers and streamers and virally by your friends who are gambling. Valve is going to be acquiring more visibility and players for its games from anyone who finds this extra functionality appealing. A thought I heard from almost all of the gamblers I spoke to was that Valve can't shut down these casinos permanently because that would wreck the market value of skins, thereby hurting every player who owns any Valve skins. But to me, that just
they could just want like the outside hype and investment that's like free marketing kind of and stuff, an incentive to do their version of gambling first, because you have to do that first anyway.
Evidence that one big reason Valve skins are so valuable and why people want them so bad is Valve allowing the betting sites to exist.
Look, I'll be honest, I think he's right. Valve is indirectly profiting from these casinos, but it's not just one journalist's opinion. Even experts have concluded the same thing.
So, in January of 2016, the Washington State Gambling Commission, and that's the top regulatory body in Washington State where Valve is headquartered, they received a complaint that prompted them to begin an investigation into Valve Corporation. 21 months later, when that investigation concluded, what they said was Valve, quote, knowingly facilitates the illegal wagering of skins, end quote. And the question, that it really came down to for these regulators was, is Valve benefiting? In the opinion of the regulators, yes.
So this feels like...
I mean, how could they not?
Washington basically concluded what a lot of people have suspected, but why did nothing happen?
What the regulators told me is that the prosecutors didn't feel that they would be able to prosecute the case successfully, so they did not pursue a case. Now, that doesn't take away from the findings of the regulators who are the experts on this. It just means that a case was never taken to court.
Huh. So even though regulators found one thing, prosecutors have declined to pursue it. Now, of course, I did think all of this was pretty shocking, so of course I wanted to ask Valve follow-up questions, but they didn't respond to my request for an interview or for comment. However, I did find interviews from about 8 years ago during the first scandal where Valve was asked very similar questions about whether they benefited from all this gambling. And the way they respond is kind of telling.
For Counter-Strike in particular, I'm curious, do you feel like gambling has a positive impact on the game at all? As you feel like it's grown interest in the game over the past few years that it's been available?
No.
Yeah, so, I mean...
Well, what's the question?
Has gambling led to greater interest in Counter-Strike?
Has it?
Yes.
We don't know. We don't have any data to support that.
Yeah, but, yeah.
So, I don't know.
Isn't that incredible? A company that nearly has all the data has no idea if $1 billion gambling industry helps them. This is a company that hires literal economists to work on their video game economies. They say in those job descriptions, one thing we have at Valve is data, lots and lots of data. Yet, on this one issue,
We don't have any data to support that.
and we're supposed to believe they've never conclusively found if gambling hurts or helps them? I find it hard to believe. Especially when, in the same interview a little bit later, the CEO, Gabe Newell, claims data isn't really hard to get in Valve.
If there's something I need to know, I can find out about it.
We don't have any data.
And information is pretty freely available inside of the company. There's, it's just not hard to, if there's something you need to know, to find out about it. But there's no, you pull your information, there's no push towards you.
Right. Of course, it's not hard to find the information. These are the people who own Steam. They have all the information. So here's a fun rule for you to think about. Anytime a company with this much data tells you we don't have the data, it means we don't like what the data says, or we don't want to know what the data says, so we've avoided looking. And by the
They're
way,
just not looking. 100%.
Valve admits only moments later that the Counter-Strike player base goes up when Valve releases things that make the game, quote, a stickier experience.
That growth in the player base typically comes either after the game has been on sale, or after we've added some features to the game that make the game a stickier experience.
Okay, we're getting somewhere. Growth happens when Valve makes their game a stickier experience. Now, I've got a follow-up. What's a stickier experience than a casino? It's so sticky, people have a problem stopping. You can't honestly say our player base grows with a stickier experience, and also, we have no data that gambling has grown interest in Counter-Strike, because those two sentences are not compatible. And oh, by the way, we've been fighting gambling for 8 years, and we keep getting outsmarted by 20-something-year-olds in Curacao. Like, you're just not trying that hard then. But we've even got more evidence for their lack of effort here, because Valve will occasionally take action on casinos, most often when they've been pressured to do so by bad press. Just take the PGL Majors, which started this whole thing. It was a horrible look for Valve, directly caused by the casinos. The result of that was almost immediately an update released only days later that for the first time in a while actually did something. Basically, Valve made it so that when you traded something in Counter-Strike, it was hard to then gamble that item. Basically, they changed a way that items showed up in your inventory. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it kind of messed up the way casinos were tracking items. Now, the end result of this is that casinos, along with skin traders in general, are slightly punished. Now, my point here is this patch could have been done at any time. The reason it happened a few days after the PGL Major was this disruption. This was a clear signal from Valve to the casinos. You stepped out of line, you caused trouble, we'll cause you trouble, right? I should note, the casinos are going to find workarounds to this, but there aren't infinite workarounds. It's obvious to everyone, including the casinos, that if Valve really wanted to shut them down, they could, since Valve ultimately controls the ecosystem by which everyone trades and tracks items. So if they wanted to definitively shut down the casinos, they could, but it just is going to require work. Work that Valve doesn't seem to have a huge appetite to do, maybe because it would impact other players, maybe because they just historically haven't done that work, unless they're forced to by press, governments, or the casinos themselves to do so. Now look, it might feel like I'm being a little harsh towards Valve here, or I'm putting a lot of the responsibility on them. And if it feels that way, it's because I am. I do think they need to be the ones to change for two reasons. One, no matter where you look, in the chain of responsibility from influencers all the way to governments, everything points to them. Valve is easily the most equipped to solve things because they are a single stakeholder. Everywhere else you look, there's coordination problems. At the influencer level, if you don't take Gamba money, other influencers will. At the casino level, you want to be more regulated? Your competitor doesn't. Even at the esports level, you don't take a gambling sponsorship, your competitor will. Even at the government level, if one country bans it, just take a VPN somewhere else where it's not banned. Not to mention, even when governments do ban it, and by the way, I think they should be part of the solution, but even when they do ban it, Valve can try to maliciously avoid regulation with new loopholes, which is not a hypothetical. They've literally done this. In France, for instance, where loot boxes that can be traded for money are banned, Valve updated their game just in France to put in what they call an X-ray scanner, where you can see the contents of your loot box before you open it.
What?
Making the results technically...
Dude, I'm moving to France. What the hell? They got the best update.
...not random. The catch is, though, you can't open another loot box until you pay to finish opening the one you've scanned. It's just a work around the law to allow the same gambling, just legally,
Can someone
I guess.
translate this law into not French? Because it makes no sense to me.
May have been a tactical mistake, because it kind of gave away the game Valve is playing. Because remember, they're trying to pretend not to be gambling, But this loophole they're using is literally a loophole slot machine companies use, where they will do what's called pre-reveal the result of a slot spin before you spin and say it's not gambling as well. In states like Missouri and America, this is how gambling companies were trying to avoid the gambling classification. Funnily enough, while learning about this loophole, I found this. Quote, the gambling companies don't like each other and will claim one company is breaking the rules while they apparently follow them. I'm getting flashbacks to this story as well. But the point is, if Valve is resorting to using gambling companies' loopholes, from the pachinko parlor loophole to the pre-spin loophole, what does that say about what they're selling? Even Valve's own users are realizing this. In a post about the French law where they dodged it with this pre-reveal, people are saying, quote, they seriously skirted the laws that stupidly easily. Sounds like Valve is using loopholes taken straight from casinos. So that's why I'm saying, yes, countries should regulate predatory loot boxes designed as slot machines. Yes, influencers shouldn't take dirty deals. Yes, casinos should in theory self-regulate. But if we're looking where to lay out a plan to fix Valve's underage gambling problem, it all comes back to Valve. No one else can unilaterally shut this down except for them. And at the same
Except for me, I could do it. Don't worry, guys. You just had to ask, dude. I'll just slam my fist down on the table and say, Gabe, stop this shit. The slot machine bullshit. Cut it out.
Make so much money from
These skins are ugly half the time.
These cases are using the same arguments casinos have been making for decades as Valve. And that's why I'm being so harsh, because frankly, they deserve it. This isn't some indie video game studio that's struggling to survive. Valve is pound for pound one of the most profitable companies in the world, period. Not just because of gambling, in spite of it. With just Steam, they're already larger than most publicly traded gaming companies, affecting millions of people a day without gambling. So it isn't crazy to expect basic responsibility from a company who touches so many lives. Unfortunately, Valve is not only uniquely able to take action, they're also uniquely equipped to avoid it. They're privately owned, an international company, and are known for not responding to journalists in situations like this or reacting to the press in any way. So for my last argument, I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to let Daddy Gabe do the talking in the hopes of inspiring some change at this mega.
Dotty.
Here's Gabe's thoughts on Valve and their responsibility.
People at Valve have to get used to working without a safety net. There's nothing between you and a customer. You can do something. You can come in that morning, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have a million customers, right? And
wait a second. You cannot do that at work. I see what's wrong with this company. They got it to do more STD checks. He's wearing a damn lab coat. He's afraid of the germs.
And you probably should fix it, right? But nobody's looking over your shoulder. And for some people, that's liberating, and for some people, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything that better captures the Valve gambling story. You screwed 1 million customers. You should probably fix it, but no one's looking over your shoulder. It has been 8 years since Valve set out to end these black market casinos built around their game. And still, the industry is alive and well. In fact, the harassment and threats in that industry are worse than ever. Meanwhile, Counter-Strike's own competitive players, influencers, and casinos all say there's an underage gambling problem, but Valve seems no closer to fixing that either. Maybe that's because the only way to fix it is to acknowledge that Counter-Strike's loot boxes are a little too close to slot machines. And look, I'm not even saying that if they want to go that route, they can. But at least ID your customers, at least acknowledge what it actually is. Otherwise, you're just trying to have your cake and eat it too. You want gambling without any of the responsibility that comes with it. And we all know that that kind of cake is a lie.
Yeah, dude. God dang Daddy Gabe eating all the damn cake, dude. This was a good video. I agree. Freaking gambling bad. Everything bad. I should probably just get rid of the whole freaking black market gambling bullshit. I don't even know that there was a solid reason that we came up with for it. Freaking besides it hypes up the game more. Dude, the game has been around for 40 freaking years. It's fine. People will play Counter-Strike forever until all the veterans die. And there hasn't been a war in hundreds and hundreds of years or something. And everybody just sucks each other off and plays the slots and chills and vibes. God, I can't wait for that time.